Okay, so last class we saw about the Agni, right? The next thing that comes is how do you channel the Agni using the prana into various parts of the body. It's through these bandhas, the locks. They channel this in certain directions. Okay, and can everybody see from there? Feel free to come closer if you want. So bandhas, we talked a little bit about bandhas already. The word bandha, as we know, means bind or lock. So it binds the body to channel energy. We saw any loose, flappy parts, they squander the prana. But when you maintain this tautness through the bandha, you channel the energy to flow in the body, the prana. And when you channel the prana, then it stills the mind and it has a lot of benefits. We saw there are many bandhas, hasta bandha, pada bandha, all kinds of bandhas, right? It is essentially any bind. When you press strongly, you channel the energy that is onto the floor. That's also a bandha. But the three internal bandhas are the Mula bandha, the Uddiyana bandha, and the Jalandhara bandha. And there's, of course, the other bandha. So you see the positions here. Mula is the perineum. It's a lifting of the perineal floor. Uddiyana literally means it's a flying object. Uddiyana, Uttishta is up, right? Uddiyana is, it's also the belt worn by women. So Uddiyana here, literally, it's the diaphragm. You're kind of lifting of the diaphragm. There was a lot of question about if you lift up, you can't breathe. No, you're just lifting up, and then the diaphragm is moving in this higher position. That's all it is. It's a notional feeling. You do that by tucking the tummy in, so it lifts. Then the Jalandhara bandha is the throat or chin lock. You bring the chin to the chest. So when you engage all three bandhas, then what happens? You retain the prana in this area. That has, you saw that in Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog. It has some benefits. Okay, there's a lot of references here. If you're interested, there's an entire book on Mula Bandha. And I have some articles if you want, where I have more references if you're interested. So if you're a teacher, you can use all this in your teaching to motivate people. And a lot of people think, they see all these YouTube videos and they think, okay, this Mula Bandha thing, it is an asana trick that people use to do all this fancy stuff. No, it's actually not that. Shankaracharya talks about in Yoga Taravali, it's to harness the prana. That was the main benefit, but it's not an asana trick that people use. It is considered the most important of the three bandhas. It's an ancient yogic technique used to channel the energy upward instead of dissipating it downward. And asana practitioners happen to use it. It's also used with meditation. So let's take a look at this video. So how the tautness that Laruga uses, it is using Mula Bandha. So this is essentially all this so-called slow motion effect. How she maintains it is through the use of Mula Bandha. And it's also important. It's not like slow motion. It's very nice to see and all that, aesthetically very pleasing. That is the reason 99.999% want to do all these things. But when you engage the bandhas, you also have control. Then when you're doing especially advanced asana, so a lot of people, they wrote to me saying, oh, they'd like to do this advanced asana. All that is great. But when you have control, there is no tearing. The sudden movements, that's what will tear the muscle. So it protects you. Bandhas, I also have an article, I'll send it to you. Bandhas are great protectors in asana practice because you have full control. That is the importance of bandhas, aside from all the aesthetic effects. And in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it says that um, it's used to lift the Kundalini up. So we'll come to that next, the shloka in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Tena Kundalini Supta Santapta Samprabhudyate Danda Hatha Iva Bhujanga Iva Nishvasya Rujutam Vrajet. So the sleeping Kundalini, Danda Hatha, Danda is stick, Hatha is hit, Danda Hatha Bhujanga is snake, Bhujangasana. Remember? Danda Hatha Bhujanga, like a snake struck by a stick. This Kundalini, Tena Kundalini Supta, Supta is like sleeping Kundalini is woken up like a snake struck by a stick. It hisses. That's the effect it creates. So let's listen to this shloka.
तेन कुण्डलिनी सुप्ता सन्तप्ता सम्प्रबुध्यते दण्डाहता भुजङ्गीव निःश्वस्य ऋजुतां व्रजेत्.
Okay, so the Hatha Yoga Pradipika doesn't talk too much about Kundalini, but it does say this. The Kundalini, some people view it as some sacred thing like Lalita Sahasranamam, all these things. They talk a lot about Kundalini. It's the female energy, the goddess, right? The chakras, it's extensively Mooladhara chakra, all these come. So the Kundalini, each chakra is like a granthi knot. Kundalini splits the knot and goes up. That's one way. In the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it's just something that is sitting there. It has to be disposed of it. So you just send it up. Then you let the prana enter the Sushumna. That is one way of looking. Adi Shankara mentions the importance of the Mula Bandha to awaken Kundalini in Yoga Taravali. It's a very famous text. The shloka, the Vande Gurunam Charanara Sandarshita Swatma Sukava Buddhe Nishreyase Jangalikaya Mane Samsara Halahala Moha Shantyai. This comes from Yoga Taravali. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about Mula Bandha. It is the upliftment of the pelvic floor, the perineum. There are two sets of muscles, anal and the urogenital. They're all interwoven. It's very difficult to isolate and lift it up. So initially, the way they say, just squeeze that area. Then slowly, the feeling that you will get, it's something like this. So let's say this is the perineal floor. Then when you, so this is the perineal floor. When you move, you feel like it's lifting like that. That's the feeling when your body is very open, and this is how it'll feel. It lifts up like this, like that squeeze. That's the feeling you get for Mula Bandha. Okay, what helps engage the Mula Bandha? First, you need heat in the body, right? Internal heat due to the Ujjayi breath. The warm external temperatures, it facilitates, but the internal heat is what's important. Your muscles become very flexible when you heat the room to 100 degrees, but you still may not be able to engage Mula Bandha very well. The other important thing is diet. So when I told you about Richard Freeman, this famous Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga teacher, he has a video. It says, yoga destroys your life. It refers to the samsaric life. But that's because you stop partying, you go to bed at 9, wake up at 4, and you're very particular about your diet, because the effect shows very instantaneously. The next day you wouldn't be able to engage the bandha. So a light sattvic diet is very critical. In fact, the most important thing is the diet. Once you start feeding the Mula Bandha, this is where I'll send the article also about this. This is where actually the healing benefits of yoga come. It is not, of course, doing the poses that you get all the benefits, but the Mula Bandha, it gives a sense of happiness to you, this very refined happiness, and you value that more than the happiness that comes from eating ice cream or things like that. Okay, and slowly your life will start A lot of people in the West, people who practice advanced hatha yoga, they turn vegan or vegetarian. And for them, it's like I was brought up vegetarian. For me, I can't think of anything else. But for a lot of people, they value it so much that they change. The other important thing is a clean colon and empty stomach for prana to rise. That is the most important thing. So throughout the scriptures, the diet is talked about. I can't even emphasize this enough. In fact, I can maybe in Mahabharata, let's see. Okay, let's move the screen here. Let's see. Okay.
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवत् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीत मत्परः वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता आपूर्यमाणम् अचलप्रतिष्ठम् समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत्कामायम् प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे.
So, that is body. Okay. We saw that Narada, Krishna asked Narada, who do you consider the greatest devotee? In the Mahabharata, a very famous dialogue between Krishna. Krishna asks Narada all these questions. Narada says, he who does his prayers before eating. So any spiritual practice, that's why it's most important to do with an empty stomach or light. You never, and in fact, when you're doing advanced meditation, all that, you have to eat. So it's you may think that you're doing all this. People actually they do all this hatha yoga so they can eat a 4-course meal or something. But if they're just undoing the effect, of course we don't want to starve, but you have to develop a sense of restraint. So that's why so much importance is given to diet. So mita, hita, ahar, light and appropriate food.
अथासने दृढे योगी वशीहितमिताशनः गुरूपदिष्टमार्गेण प्राणायामान् समभ्यसेत्.
Self-control, eating a suitable and moderate diet. That's what the Hatha Yoga Pradipika says. So it's said that, so there's three yogi, yogi eats 1 meal a day apparently. A bogi means enjoyer of the senses, pleasures. Bogi eats 2 meals a day. A rogi in Ayurveda, they call these people with diseases. Rogis, they eat 3 meals a day. And there's a 4th category called drohi. It's people eat 4 meals a day. So anyway, 1 meal a day is extreme, but a lot of people move towards 2 meals a day, and it varies with our dosha. Vatas tend you shouldn't starve your body much. Kaphas can go a long way between food. But anyway, whatever dosha you have, eating a little lesser, you'll find it has tremendous effect on your asana practice. And Sadhguru would say, an empty stomach has one problem, only hunger. A full stomach has 100 problems. So that's to stress the importance of eating. And Patabi Joyce would say that, how do you know how much to eat? I mean, he himself became a glutton later, yeah, probably, but he would tell his students that eat just enough so you can still engage the Mula Bandha. That is a good rule of thumb for eating. Now, no. Eat enough so that at the end of it, try to engage the Mula Bandha. See if it's you can still engage. You're not engaging the Mula Bandha while eating, but you're eating. Let's say, should I stop? Or should I eat that extra? Then see, are you still able to engage Mula Bandha? It's just a rule of thumb. What Abhi Joyce would say. It's joking, but it has a lot of practical meaning, because it's a good test to see when you overeat.
So maybe you are not able to engage
If you, that's right. If you just eat enough so you can still engage the Mula Bandha, because if you overeat, you cannot engage it. Yeah. Okay. Now comes, so the Agni Bandha, and the third important thing is prana. Prana, it is a very sacred thing. As I told you, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva. I become the body's fire. I Praninam Deham Ashrita. All these pranis, the living things, Deham, their bodies, I reside. Pranapana Samayukta Pachamyanam Chaturvidam. Prana and Apana Sama. Even in the 5th chapter, the last but one sloka, Pranapana Samayukta, he tells how to, from meditation, engaging the prana and apana with the bandhas. That's the in Bhagavan Krishna says that Pranapana Samayukta, and in the 15th chapter, Pachamyanam Chaturvidam. Pachami, I digest the 4 types of food, the one that is solid, semi-solid, liquid, all that stuff. So the prana is therefore a sacred thing, and the prana is one, but like a king delegating his work to different subjects, minister that, this defense minister. Prana splits up into 5 forms: prana, udana, vyana, samana, and apana. So it's said that prana resides in the upper parts. It directly controls the mind. The udana, Patanjali also has a Yoga Sutra. In the Yoga Sutra, it says, Udana Jayat, by mastery over Udana, Jala, Panka, Kantaka, Adishu, Asanga, Ukrantischa. Jala is water, Panka is mud, Jala, Panka, Kantaka is thorns. You can walk over them with Jala, Panka, Kantaka, Adishu, etc. Asanga, without coming in contact with them. Sangha is uniting. Asanga, Ukranti, levitate, you can levitate. He says that, but the importance is it is from Udana, and this is what you tap in to do all the fancy poses. Udana is what you tap. This is very practical from asana point of view. All the levitation that you saw Laruga did, it's bandhas, Udana. So Udana is in this lungs, this region. That's what gives us levitation. Then apana is all the excretionary function, the reproduction, menstruation, all these things. It is apana. It is the downward flow. So we saw one apanic pose today, the Utkatasana. There's also Pashasana. It's also an apanic pose. Then Vyana circulates everywhere, the blood circulation. Vyana is the prana, which is responsible for this. And Samana is the one which takes care of the Jatara Agni. That is the prana which makes the Jatara Agni burn strongly. And Patanjali says, Samana Jaya Chalanam. When you master the Samana Vayu, your body will radiate. Irrespective of the color of the skin, you will radiate. That's what Patanjali says. And there are prana mentions are there throughout the Upanishads, Chandogya Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, and we will see I have links here if you want to study. I will use Prashna Upanishad to talk a little bit about. Yeah. You channel the prana, so it is focused. So by using the Mula Bandha, for the personally, how I feel is my body would feel light when I'm doing certain Titibhasana, for example, to be able to lift and channel the prana. So it comes from Mula Bandha, and then this, the feeling you get is lightness. That's why Swatma Rama also says, Hatasya Patamangasyam Astanam Purvamuchate Kuryat Tadasanam Vidhi Stairyam Arogyam Angalagavam. Lagu is lightness, Anga, lightness of the limbs of the body. Angalagavam, you feel that comes from mastery or udana. That you wouldn't feel without effort you can do things. Lift, like go into handstands, all that stuff. So Mula Bandha helps channel, and eventually it is the udana which is doing the job. That's what the yogi texts say. Okay, Prashna Upanishads, there are 6 disciples of Pipalada. They ask 6 questions. Master, of what is the prana born? How does it enter the body? How does it live there after dividing they say himself? How does it go out? How does it experience what is outside? How does it hold the body together, the senses and the mind? So Sage Pipalada, he says, prana is born of the self. It's like a mirror. When the Atma enters the body, at that time, prana, it's the 2 sides of the same coin. Like a man and his shadow, the self and the prana are inseparable. Prana enters the body at birth so that the desires of the mind continuing from past lives may be fulfilled. Karma ashayaha. So, drishta, adrishta, janma vedaniya. So all the root cause of the words is the karma shaya. And that is what causes drishta in the experiences in this lifetime, adrishta in future lifetimes, janma vedaniya. Vedana is experience, janma vedaniya, life experiences. As a king employs officials to rule over different portions of his kingdom, prana associates with itself 4 pranas, each a portion of itself, and each assigned a separate function. So we saw all those functions. And we usually speak of 5 pranas, but in reality, there's only 1 pure prana, and it's 4 modalities. So you asked about udana. So this is Titibhasana. To do Titibhasana, it's you have a feeling of lightness. It comes from udana. And how do you know? Because you will feel a lot of joy, uplift feelings, and lightness in the body. They say these are the characteristics of prana. So we also saw this shloka. Let's just listen to Jai Shri Chand.
उदानजयाज्जलकण्टकादिश्वसङ्ग उत्क्रान्तिश्च.
So Kranti, that is levitation. He talks about that. Then Samana Jayat Jwalanam.
समानजयाज्ज्वलनम्.
Like by mastery of Samana, one gets radiance. It's accessed through the Nabhi Chakra. Nabhi Chakra, so there are the 7 chakras, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, then Manipura, or the Nabhi Chakra. Nabhi is navel. Nabhi is navel. So, Bhupadav Yasya Nabir Veda Chandra Surya Uchanekri. Have heard Vishnu Sahasranam from his Bhupadav Yasya Nabi. His Nabi, from his Nabi comes the stalk, and Brahma resides there. It's a famous verse in Vishnu Sahasranama, and the Dhyana Shloka of the Vishnu Sahasranama. Bhupado Yasya Nadu. He's in as Trivikrama, he stands on all three worlds. There's also Trivikrama asana. He couldn't find a place for the third step, so he keeps it on Bali's head. So Bhupado Yasya Nadu, Viyadasura Nilas Chandra Surya Netre, sun and the moon are his eyes. So it's a beautiful shloka. The Nabi is navel. Then comes the nadis. So this pranas, how do they flow? They flow through these nadis. The nadis are not nerves. It's something invisible. But the three important nadis are the Pingala, the fire or the solar nadi on the right, Ida, cool or the lunar nadi. Then there's a Sushumna nadi, which is usually inactive. The prana doesn't flow there. Entire goal of Hatha Yoga is to make the prana enter the Sushumna. And what's blocking that? The Kundalini, according to Hatha Yoga, is blocking it. So you dispatch it up. And that's according to Hatha Yoga. In Lalita Sahasranamam and all this, the Devi shlokas there, Kundalini, it just, you drink the nectar of Kundalini, it gives a lot of other benefits. But Hatha Yoga Pradipika doesn't talk much about Kundalini. Yeah, it's a mix of nerves, then muscles, all these are components probably. But a nadi is a nadi because so the acupuncture is exactly that, right? So the chi, prana, they're very similar. They're not apparently exactly the same, but they put these things to manipulate the flow of these, right? So it's a concept. So when they do that, they're not really entering a nerve or anything with these needles, but they're able to manipulate the flow. So yeah, it's very difficult to say. Okay, how does unblocking the flow of prana feel? So when you unblock the flow of prana, one feels lightness of the body, joy, and vigor. So in general, what causes the prana to be blocked? It is the ama that deposits in the body. Even in Ayurveda, that's why removing the ama comes from the undigested, unmetabolized food. It deposits as plaque, all these kind of things. It's the white coating on the tongue. So when you clean, for example, clean the tongue, you find the fire in the stomach light up. So I'm just giving a practical example. I can't say, oh, if I remove the plaque in the artery, then I feel much livelier, because that's much more difficult. But this is an example to feel how it feels. You see the delta, and that comes apparently because the prana flows better. And we also saw this sutra, Nimittam Aprayojakam Prakritinam Varanabhedastu Kshetrikavat. Nimittam, all these instruments, we already saw that. Fancy things, they only have limited use. Patanjali says in Sutra 4.3, Nimittam Aprayojakam, not very beneficial. Prakritinam, for the flow of Prakriti. Varanabheda, removing the obstacles to the flow of Prakriti, is the most important. Tataha, like Kshetrikavat. Kshetra is field, Kshetrika is a farmer. Like a farmer creating these bunds by removing the mud and let the water from the river flow to the crops. Most important thing for prana to flow are here Prakriti. Prana is part of Prakriti. It's removing the obstacles, and primarily from eating. A lot of it comes from the diet. Play this.
निमित्तमप्रयोजकं प्रकृतीनां वरणभेदस्तु ततः क्षेत्रिकवत्.
Okay, so any questions so far? Okay. Zoom or Google Meet people, any questions? Okay, then we.
No.
Okay, we will move on to mudras. Typically, when you think of mudra, literally means a seal. So in previous days, they'll have a letter, they'll close it, they'll put wax, and then put a seal on that, right? That's like a mudra, a seal. And people, when they say mudra, they talk about chin mudra, shankha mudra, all these kind of mudras. So when you do this, what happens apparently, you are able to channel the prana in a certain way. Okay, this is one mudra, but if you see the definition of mudra in the book Asana, Pranayama, and Mudras, this is by Bihar School of Yoga. There, they also say, they define it as a specific body position. Body could also include the fingers, which channels the energy produced by asana and pranayama into various centers, and it arouses particular states of mind. So all the stuff that we did, like pressing the feet onto the thigh, all these stuff, it is in fact a form of mudra. Okay, so that's the reason why we did all that, pressing this, that, and yeah, so that it channels the energy to flow, and you will feel the difference. I don't know if you guys notice the difference. When you press it, the Mula Bandha is engaged, the entire body becomes streamlined instead of lax like this. When you press into some parts of the body will become streamlined, it becomes taut. So that is mudra. So this is Vatayana asana. So Vatayana, Vata is wind. Vatayana is that which goes like the wind. So what goes like a wind? It is a horse. Horse runs like a wind. So Vatayana, apparently it has the face of a horse. In certain ways, if you look at it, it would look like a horse. So this can invoke a powerful surge of energy by pressing the feet on the thigh, spine straight, interlock palms, and lift them high, and palms touching. That will create a surge of energy. So this is a mudra. And the Hatha Yoga Pradipika says that as the Lord of the Serpents supports the earth with its mountains and forests, the Kundalini supports all yogic practices. And for the Kundalini, the mudras are important. So first, let's listen to, so Adisesha. In the mythology, it's Adisesha supposed to, have the earth, support the earth. Sashailavana Dhatrinam Yatadaro Adinayakaha. So the Adisesha. Sarvesham Yoga Tantranam. All the Yoga Tantras, Yatadhara, support Ki Kundali.
श्री स्वात्मा रामकृत हठयोग प्रदीपिका अथ तृतीयोपदेशः सशैलवनधात्रीणां यथाधारोहिनायकः सर्वेषां योगतन्त्राणां तथा धारो हि कुण्डली.
So Kundalini, it supports all this, and all the lotuses and knots, or somebody asked about chakras, they are split open when the sleeping Kundalini is awakened. So all this is building up to why practice mudras. Third chapter is on mudras. He gives one full chapter to mudras, and he includes in the mudras, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, he includes the bandhas too. The important are the three bandhas: Mula, Udyana, Jalandhara, and that's what's called Mahamudra, and there's and the Viparita Karani Mudra. So Krishnamacharya considered these five important. So in the next class we will do Yoga Mudra. Yoga Mudra is where it's actually, I suppose, Yoga Mudra. Hold your legs behind, and maybe I should demonstrate that. So Yoga Mudra like that, This is considered an important mudra. Hold back like that and like that, and bring forward. If you're able to see, so see both hands are grabbing the toes and like that. That is yoga mudra. We'll do it next class. Okay. So let's see what this says.
सुप्ता गुरुप्रसादेन यदा जागर्ति कुण्डली तदा सर्वाणि पद्मानि भिद्यन्ते ग्रन्थयोऽपि च.
So you asked about the 7 chakras. So these are the 7 chakras. Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Agnya, and Sahasrara. Sahasrara is the 1000, but Sahasram, Sahasranama means 1000, Sahasrara chakra. It has 1000 petals. And then Swatma Rama says, doing this is building up for mudras. A cleared path becomes a royal road for prana. Remember, we talked about why do mudras? To channel the prana. It's cleared when all these knots, they're all cleared apparently. Prana can smoothly enter the Sushumna Nadi. So he says the cleared path becomes a royal road for prana. And we know Swatma Rama is a marketing expert. He says even death is strict. Mind is without objects.
प्राणस्य शून्यपदवी तदा राजपथायते तदा चित्तं निरालम्बं तदा कालस्य वञ्चनम्.
Shunya Paritas is prana. It's a clear path without nothing there. Okay. And finally, after all this, he says, therefore, practice mudras to awaken the goddess sleeping outside the door to the Brahman, which is the Sushumna Nadi. So awaken her, the Kundali, to send her up.
तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन प्रबोधयितुमीश्वरीं ब्रह्मद्वारमुखे सुप्तां मुद्राभ्यासं समाचरेत्.
Bodhayatu Ishwari goddess, she's sleeping there. Brahmadwara Mukha, Brahmadwara is the door to Brahma, Mukham, to the entrance, to the door to the Brahma. Suptam, sleeping, by Mudra Abhyasa. Abhyasa means practice, Mudra Abhyasa means the practice of Mudra, Samacharet. What Samacharet? We wake her up. Okay. Are there any questions? I think today everybody seems a little tired. So, so that is the goddess. It's not Saraswati. It's just Devi. You can say Saraswati, but this is just Devi. She's sleeping at the Brahmadwara Mukham. And basically it says, awaken her up and send her up. So the Hatha Yoga Pradipika stops there. It doesn't say much. But if you read Lalita Sahasranamam and all this, then they talk about many things about Kundalini, what it does. So it goes up and then all the way through the Sahasrara chakra. There, Shiva and Shakti, they join, and then, yeah. So all those things they talk. I think in the Lalita Sahasranamam it comes. I listened to it once. All these things come. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So What about Zoom people? Are there any questions? Those are just sheets. It's not like even if you go to reach that stage, you still have the sheet, right? It's just a layer. You see what I mean? That's not a state. It's just a. Do you see? There's a difference between a mind state and a layer in your body. Our body has different layers. Pranamaya is a layer where the prana flows. Annamaya kosha is basically all the muscles, fat. Pranamaya kosha, Manonmaya kosha, the mind layer. You see, it's not a state. Yeah, so um, last, we have a couple of minutes, so I'll cover the last point and then everybody looks tired, so I'll stop. So we talked about this when you bend forward and Agnya Chakra touches your shin, then the certain deep states are induced. And this is where I've been telling, this is where the magic of asana practice happens. When you're able to get into these states. And the mind has 4 parts: manas, buddhi, ahankara, and chitta. Chit iva bhavayati chittam, which is chit looks like the chitta looks like the chit. Chit is chit sat chit ananda. It is the atma. That's the nature of the atma. It's closest. It looks like the atma, but it is not. It is always on. When you're sleeping, then memory, feelings, all this is not there. Intellect is not acting. You don't have an ego, but the chitta is always awake. That's the difference. So manas is memory, feelings, all this. It is distributed throughout the body. Where is the manas? People say here, right? So it's actually your body as well. It's a reservoir of memory, which is why when you do this and all this, certain good feelings come. And so that's what you tap in the asana practice. Buddhi is the intellect. Ahankara is the sense of who am I. Okay. And there's an article here if you want to read. So this is what you tap into in asana practice. Tapping into the body's memories. So there's an article. If you click, you'll get more articles. The body is a playground in asana practice. So Patanjali says, Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna manasah sthiti nibandhini. Vishayavat means what? Like a object. When you do all this, suddenly you're reminded of ice cream. All these can happen. Even in meditation, it comes. Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna, rising these feelings. And Patanjali actually says, lock onto that. Manasaha sthiti nibandhini, mind becomes quiet. So in asana practice, you can actually do sometimes some very, like when you put the Bhujapriyasana you do, it's like a massage, you're giving a hug to yourself. It becomes so calm. So the mind is very still. So use that. So this is actually asana practice. It is not the final pose, huff and puff and doing, no, that is not asana. So asana is tapping into all these things. The body is a playground. So that is what you get. Sometimes people smell roses. They're in this. It all comes, it is because of the memories they released. And Patanjali also, as much as you're comfortable, if your mind is still, just stay for long. Yeah, if it comes, just enjoy it. Why go out of that? Hridaye Chitta Samhita, by meditating on the Hridaya, you will apparently understand your Chitta. That's what Patanjali says. So one can get access to deeper states of the mind through the body. That's why the Buddha taught mindfulness of the body first. He then taught mindfulness of Vedana, all the mindfulness of the mind states, all that later. That's why Ravi Shankar says, Kayena Anupachinna. First thing that Buddha said, is through the body that you can tap into the mind. You can't see the mind with the mind. It's through the body. Body and mind are two sides of the same coin. So that is this is asana practice. Asana practice is not doing fancy poses, but it is accessing the mind through the body. Yeah. Chitta is, so we talked about manas, which is the memory, feelings, then the buddhi, the intellect says this is good, this is bad, sharp intellect, ahankara. Then the chitta is where it has this big screen called pratyaya. Okay, so I'll explain. This is actually a very important concept. We have 1 minute. I'll try to explain, but in next class I'll go into detail. If you look at your mind, it's like a movie theater. There's constantly images and sounds playing, right? Just like a movie theater. Silver screen, you have a beautiful silver screen. What's on the screen? Constant images, right? Now, when all the images are gone, this beautiful shiny silver screen will reflect the Atma. Tata drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. The mind will see the nature reflection of the Atma. That is why yoga, chitta vritti nirodha, once that is reached, tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. So this is the mind. It's a chitta. Okay, all this part, this whole movie theater, that's chitta. Okay, now it's time, so I have to be respectful of people's time, and therefore I will stop here.